I'd like to welcome up Rob Wilk, Corporate VP of Advertising at Microsoft.
Hello, sir.
Great to see you.
Great to be here. How is everyone? Come on, we're in person here. These are human faces. Let's get excited.
That's right? We're back.
Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
You know, Rob, we chatted a number of times. This is a new role. You, at your leadership offsite a couple weeks ago, there was palpable enthusiasm in the room. I mean, the approach that you guys are taking to this sector, which got me jazzed. But I think a divisional, support for something and enthusiasm is only necessary, not sufficient. For us, what our experience is, if you really need that sort of CEO level sponsorship for initiatives, which is why I want to hark back to, I was at the Code Conference last September, and I caught Satya Nadella being interviewed by Kara Swisher, and at the end there's a Q&A, and a question was asked about Microsoft's intent as it related to advertising. I'm just going to go ahead and play that now.
First of all, advertising as a business model is a very powerful business model, as you described it. And I think that the opportunities today of being able to take a fresh take at it, I think are there, and you're going to see us take a run at it.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out.
Very strong endorsement, I suppose. But who did ask that question, by the
Terry
way?
Kawaja, LUMA Partners.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. It was me. No, but
Well executed.
yeah,
It was really well executed.
I do find that matters to have the kind of CEO umbrella support. Some people may be surprised by that answer or by my description of enthusiasm for advertising and advertising technology at Microsoft, but probably because people have a dated perspective, ergo the comeback title. Walk us through from the old days of Quantum to sort of where we are today from Microsoft's approach to advertising.
Yeah, so I sort of got itchy at the ed tech comeback because I don't think you should call it a comeback because we've been here for years. No one got the LL Cool J reference. So well, they're not all winners. What can I tell you? Yeah, if you go all the way back, I think people truthfully have a justifiable reason to be very confused about where Microsoft stands as it relates to advertising.
Right.
We've had fits and starts. I don't deny that. We're not very loud in the marketplace, which is why I sort of begged you to let me come here and tell the story. And then we have a lot of deals with other companies that are not clearly understood. So let me give you just a simple example. I know some folks from Yahoo are in the room right now. In 2015, we did a deal with Yahoo where we just said, look, let's each do what we do best. So we had search sales move from Yahoo to Microsoft, and we gave Yahoo display selling. That's just one simple example.
Yep.
Now, if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't know that. And the reason that we're here today is that we hit a major milestone that we wanted to talk about, which is that Microsoft's ad business is now a $10 billion a year business.
Right.
It's no joke. Thank you for the whistle, whoever did that. Thank you.
So that puts you in the top 5.
Yeah, and of those 5, we're the quietest. And of those 5, we're also, I guess you could put Amazon in this category, but Google, Facebook, predominantly ad-supported companies. We are a $10 billion division of a $160 billion company. So we're still single-digit % of the company's revenue, which is sort of mind-blowing.
Right.
But when earnings season comes around or when people do press and PR, Microsoft's not the company that they think of right away because we're not rooted entirely in advertising, which, by the way, has its downsides, but for the most part is a humongous advantage. I'm sure you've all seen, not only the famous LUMAscapes, but like there's these charts that show, let's call it the top 10 market cap companies and how well diversified or how well not diversified they are. And if you look at that Microsoft chart, it's pretty fascinating that we've got multiple lines of business that do billions in revenue that people in this room probably never heard of.
Well, Connor in his presentation on commerce media pointed out that the media business at Amazon is a material beneficiary to their bottom line. They'd be losing money in the ecosystem, in the e-commerce marketplace. Not the case with Microsoft. Plenty of profits.
Yes, we do okay in that
Microsoft.
department.
But then how did Satya say they're enthusiastically going out? Why go after advertising when it is such a small piece? How does it integrate with Azure and MSN and LinkedIn and Bing and all the other aspects?
So, well, the first thing is this is a very little known fact. I think you and I talked about it, but Satya is the CEO of Microsoft, but people don't know that he spent a lot of time running the engineering team for Bing. He has a great book called Hit Refresh. It's a whole chapter about it. It's not a very well-known part of the story, so he's always been familiar with the power of performance advertising, the power of intent data, et cetera. But I think for a while, we weren't big enough, and there were other sector-level changes. So you just had Criteo up here talking about retail media, as an example. So we acquired a company a little over 3 years ago called Promote IQ. So for those that don't know, Promote IQ, it's a platform that enables every retailer on the planet that wants to compete to simply plug and play and have paid search results on a retailer site. That's what the platform does. We did that 3.5 years ago. So we were, I would say, for us, relatively ahead of that sector before Amazon turned it into a $30 billion business. And there are thousands and thousands of retailers that need this help. So it's a marketplace. We bring brands with those retailers. We're helping them on site, but now the deal has not closed, so I can't say too much, but now you imagine combining that with Xandr, and all of a sudden you've got an incredible opportunity for retailers on site, and now you've got an incredible opportunities for brands who we can use Xandr to help reach them anywhere across the open web.
Right.
So that combination is huge.
And we got to that opportunity in our state of digital. I would describe Amazon's foray into media as leveraging one of their comparative advantages because they've got the conversion data to commerce. What are Microsoft's comparative advantages as it relates to advertising?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll start with, this is one of my favorite things to say, and God bless you, Google, but here it comes. We're the only company that competes with Google. Everyone in this room competes with Google, but we're the only ones that compete with them on their home turf, which is search. And we built a very healthy business with just our search data. We get 15 billion searches a month. Yep. I describe search all the time as the world's most scaled, most honest focus group in the history of the world. Yep. So when you understand that and you combine that with audience data, you can deliver performance for an advertiser that is relatively unparalleled, right? And now we have a couple of new assets that are coming under the hood. Again, Xandr, which we will talk about soon. Yep. And then way off in the distance, you've got Activision. Right. Which, again, this room might go, why is he talking about, Activision? They're a game maker. They actually have a very healthy ad business.
Yeah.
It's called Activision Blizzard Media. You can check it out. So you start to put the pieces together, and you're like, okay. So they've got search data. They've got audience data. They've got tons of gaming information. And then you've got, the power of the operating system. Windows is on 1 billion+ devices across the world.
So I wanted to ask you about that exact presence that you have with your other divisions. So we talked a lot about the primacy of first-party data in this new privacy-centric world. And arguably, Microsoft has all kinds of sources of very interesting first-party data from Windows, the Edge browser, Xbox, LinkedIn. But I suspect that a lot of those are hands-off as it relates to leveraging that first-party data, or do you have an avenue to create consent to bring advertising into those first-party relationships?
Yeah. There's a huge part of that data set that you just mentioned that is definitely off the table. Right? If you think about, again, Microsoft's an interesting company when it comes to advertising because we work with the federal government. There's probably companies out here where you use some, if not all, of Microsoft products. You cannot mess with that. Right. So when I talked before about one of the advantages of being a non-ad supported company is that we can afford to be a lot more careful and a lot more conservative. Right. Like privacy, I don't know, sometimes privacy feels to me like, I guess I have to say privacy because if not, I'm a bad person.
Right.
You know, privacy is religion at Microsoft. You know, just think about the access to data that we have on the enterprise side. None of that goes anywhere ever.
Right.
You think about Azure and the things that people store on the cloud. Like, privacy is not a buzzword at Microsoft. It's much bigger than that. And to be honest, there'll be scenarios where we might actually have to forego revenue because there's something an advertiser or a client wants to do that we won't do. And I'm kind of okay with that.
Right. Because it'll be plenty big enough with the data that you do have.
Of course, and again, we are a enterprise brand and we are a very big consumer brand. Yep. We care about our reputation. We care about whether people who use our products trust us. So that's always going to come first.
Yep. I want to talk a little bit about your pending acquisitions. You mentioned, Xandr and Activision Blizzard. So first of all, with Xandr, that's clearly, to me, a strategy to move towards, off-prem network approach, an ecosystem approach. Walk us through the rationale as to why that strategy, and then why specifically Xandr.
Yeah, so again, I'll be a little bit cagey here because we're very close to being done, but we're not done yet. But if you think about what Xandr has built over the past 10 years, Microsoft will always go, hey, can we throw a couple of engineers in a room and can we just build that ourselves? That seems to be the attitude. When you look under the hood, there's just no way. Right. The plugs, the pipes they've got to publishers, to advertisers, it's just too big. It's too global, and it just made more sense to work together. So if you stick with, there's multiple examples, but if you stick with the PIQ one, to me, that's the most tangible example for advertisers is you're a brand, you want to make sure you've got right visibility on a retailer site, and that person didn't buy, no problem. You want to retarget those people, that's where Xandr comes in. And I think it's also important that people understand that, yes, we're going to bring Microsoft's first-party data, of course, but there's a huge amount of respect and understanding that there's a massive third-party ecosystem out there that they've built, and we do not want to get in that way. We don't want to mess with that. That's like one of the biggest parts of why we acquired that.
You want to support that and grow that part of the business.
Of course. And I think clients will expect us and agencies will expect us to do that.
And what are the Xandr-related sort of opportunities in, say, CTV, commerce media?
So I'm going to go maybe a slightly different direction. So obviously they've got plenty of experience in CTV. We're starting to get more serious about it. I don't know if you saw, but we just announced a partnership with Roku and LiveRamp. So imagine advertisers who are buying CTV, they don't have a great, easy way to go, hey, how did that work? What's the true ROI of my CTV spend on Roku? So this partnership was just announced in April, and now we're actually going to tie together Roku CTV data through LiveRamp with our search and audience data to help TV advertisers understand the impact of their advertising as it relates to, does it change search behavior, does it change audience behavior, and give them a much better sense of that attribution model as you go. Mm-hmm. One of the things that people like to push on when it comes to search is like, hey, last click isn't really fair, they get all the credit.
Right.
There are companies that benefit from that last click attribution, but now we're going to start to have a broader view and help advertisers have a much broader view of how do these things impact each other. Mm-hmm. And from what I can tell right now, there's nobody else doing what we're doing, and it's just to start with Roku, mm-hmm. but you can imagine there's a bunch of different ways that Xandr can play into that.
Right, so CTV will remain a core strategy.
As of today, yes, it will.
Okay. I want to talk about gaming. In our State of Digital, we talked about CTV opportunity, we just discussed. Dick outlined the huge, it's so funny. We talk about display, we talk about CTV, and then, Dick gets on stage and says, yeah, right, take a look at the size of the gaming market. It's enormous.
Huge.
It's enormous.
Huge.
Swamps all those other ones. And it seems like with Activision Blizzard, you got everything from Call of Duty to Candy Crush. So it's every facet of gaming. It's just a beast of a property. And as you mentioned, already has a sort of burgeoning, growing ad business built in. It would seem to me to have enormous ad-related opportunities. as the lines blur between, call it, gaming and CTV in terms of how we characterize that inventory.
Yeah, you win.
Yeah.
No.
But I guess is the strategy to be walled gardeny, or is it to take that and leverage it with, say, Xandr to go ecosystem wide?
Yeah, so I think again I'm being a little bit careful just because again this is Microsoft's biggest acquisition, and I like my job and I'd like to keep it.
Okay.
But what I will say is think of the corollary for a moment. Think about how much today people talked about retail commerce. I'm older than I look, but for all of us, how many of you have been in the room when retailers first heard about putting ads on their site and them going, "What are you, crazy? That gets in the way of the transaction. I would never put ads on my site." Does that ring a bell with anyone? There you go. I mean, for a long time, retailers were like, "This is crazy. We would never do this." Now it's a huge business, and now they're all jumping in.
Yep.
To me, there's a corollary there between gaming, which is people's misunderstanding of first of all, who gamers are.
Right.
You have your old school version of it, which Microsoft has probably, helped perpetuate, which is, the 22-year-old male in his basement just gaming for hours. But now, if you look at Activision as an example, you mentioned everything from COD, the cool kids call Call of Duty COD, or at least my kids do, all the way through to Candy Crush. Candy Crush, my 45-year-old sister-in-law with 2 kids living in the suburbs, she plays Candy Crush.
Right.
She's not who you would typically think of as a gamer.
Right.
So the broadening of that, and then the acceptance of where can we put advertising that isn't a disastrous annoyance to people if they're playing on Xbox or xCloud now, which is basically Xbox without the console,
right,
or all of these mobile games. Like, it's not unusual anymore. And in fact, there are certain areas where ads can actually give you an extra life, or they can extend your game, and most people are more than fine with that. So that shift is very similar to the shift that you saw when everyone said, "I'd never show an ad on an e-commerce website."
Right.
We're super bullish on that.
It almost sounds like these ambitions will be unrealized without further activity, which is just me trying to say more M&A, right?
I mean, he wasn't going to get up here without pitching that.
By the way,
and it could be because there are scenarios where we think we can grow organically.
Yep.
And candidly, there are areas where we think we'll have to grow inorganically. That is true.
Right. By the way, I'm obligated to ask the question: are you considering buying Twitter?
Me personally, no. I am not.
Okay. You personally, no. Okay, good. Good to know. So I want to finish with a personal question. We discovered when we spoke that you have a history and an interest in comedy. I don't know how that possibly would have any relevance here. When was the last time you did stand-up?
I've only done it once, to be candid. It was a birthday gift from my brother. He thinks I'm funny, and he said, "I got you a 6-week class, and the final exam, I had to perform in the West Village."
How'd it go?
Killed, by the way.
Killed.
I don't think I can compare with you, but it's actually super helpful, like just from a work perspective of how to put together a story that makes sense. Certainly the beats you need to hit that make, that work, and being super comfortable in front of an audience. Like, I actually found it super helpful from a career perspective, but it was like the greatest 15 minutes of my life, and I'll never do it again because it will never compare.
Well, we love large companies that are looking at this sector with the lens of opportunity. We welcome Microsoft back and look forward to lots of interactions. Rob, thank you very much.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir.